Crazyhouse World Championship. This is the candidates, and we are watching a match from round 4. Fumitoks is playing pknm, and if we look at the standings, we see that Fumitoks is in second place when it comes to winning percentage. And in fact, he's the only player who's won all his matches so far. He's played 3 and won them all. 6-4 against Spinal Tap, 6.5, 3.5 against Bugzilla, and 6.5, 3.5 against Little Plotkin. 2 very convincing, strong wins by Fumitoks. So he's definitely a contender to take this. But then he will need to win big against pknm, who is trailing at the bottom of the table. Because Blitzbullet, who's in the lead, he managed to beat pknm by 10-0. I think both pknm and Fumitoks are online. Yep. So it's just a matter of time here before they both are seated. pknm from Sweden, and I'm not sure where Fumitoks is from. Is he from Russia, maybe? Welcome those of you who are watching. Let me know if you have any predictions. We play we play 10 games regardless of the result. 3 minutes with 2-second increment. As you can see, Fumitoks has a firm lead in their mutual previous encounters, but the last few games have been quite even between the 2 players. And Fumitoks, we will look from his view. He is playing e4, and I know pknm, he has his own home-built opening. He's a very positional player, pknm. Doesn't really go for the kill, but Fumitoks, on the other hand, is a very aggressive player. He's leaving the knight on c3 on prise, maybe, because black could win material here by playing c6, but I don't think white really cares about the lost piece, because he's just trying to get quick development and going for the attack. Attacking f7, attacking c6, playing quickly, putting pressure on not only on the board but also on the clock. And welcome to the chat. Please ask me any questions if you have them. In case you haven't watched Crazyhouse before, whatever pieces you take from your opponent, you get in hand. They change colors, and you can place them on the board instead of moving one of your pieces on the board. So this is a very aggressive continuation by Fumitoks. Just going for the opponent king, trying to lure him out on the board, and maybe check, and maybe offer a queen trade, but I'm not sure. The problem for black is if you take knight e5, where is the king going? Because after king e8, white has f7 check, king e7, and there's a knight fork on c6. So actually, black couldn't take on f7. And when he couldn't take on f7, well, this is just bad news for black. I think white will pick up the queen. And if black takes, well, d takes c3 check looks very natural. And you need to interpose with a knight, which just sucks, because if you put it on d6, there's a pawn landing on e5, which will pick up the knight, and putting it on d7 just looks ugly. So this is just hopeless for black. Pawn at e5 or even e5 looks crushing. One might also consider bishop g5 check. Just to trade a few more pieces. And also queen at h4 maybe, trying to fork the king and the bishop. Yeah, he went for queen h4. And now either e5 or pawn at e5 looks very dangerous. Very, very dangerous indeed. But instead he went for bishop g5, just trying to trade a bit here and winning more material, gaining a knight for f7. Still threatening just to push the e-pawn or play pawn at e5. What a hopeless position. Maybe, oh, he just gave the queen so we can play knight f7 check, picking up the rook, threatening g6. This is a complete disaster for black. Black found a way to protect the pawn and actually attack on g2. So white probably wanting to trade on g6 or to push or place a pawn on e5. White with a couple of extra pawns in hand could also just play a pawn at d3. I'm just surprised that pknm is still somewhat alive, but he's a rook and 3 pawns behind. And when the bishop takes, you have bishop at g5 picking up the annoying knight. You can take here and land another bishop on g5 if black takes back with a rook. pknm down to just playing with increment, and instead of allowing some bishop takes and then pawn at e2, which probably isn't dangerous anyway, white just controls the game here, putting his knights to work. And this knight defends e2, which maybe black didn't notice. And somewhere around here, maybe bishop at g6, start going for the mate. Yeah, there's the mate, forced mate. Okay, Fumitoks takes the lead 1-0. pknm with white, however, is way more solid than pknm with black. So I expect Fumitoks to have at least some problems with pknm when pknm is playing white. Slightly unusual setup here for black, but he just goes for the c2 pawn here. It takes time though. So maybe the best choice here for white is to, should he, maybe just castle. Because castle, let's say bishop takes, you could probably take with the queen. Knight takes, bishop a4 check, pick up the knight, and then with your extra development, you can play with two pieces for a queen and a pawn and have very good compensation, I think. And if the knight takes, well, maybe you just cut off the connection with e4 or something. So I suppose bishop g5 just to get the rook out and maybe take on f6 and play e4. At this point, black probably wants to take with a bishop here. Instead, white goes for a pawn sacrifice. Opening up the position, setting the board on fire. But is this really good for white? Take on c3. You can follow up by taking on c2 with the bishop. So knight takes here, pawn takes here. If you take with the king, black has bishop e4 picking up the knight on f5. Tricky move this. Perhaps it's better to just move the bishop away, but where to? This looks very dubious for white, I think. Let's say take here, you can pick up the rook and then bishop e4, all sorts of threats. Maybe can you take c2 here? Because if the queen takes, you have knight f3 check and then pick up the rook on e1 with actually a further fork on king and queen. So what do you play with? This looks strong for black. And possibly pawn f3, luring the king out even further, because if the queen takes, you have a knight fork on e1. Pawn f3 looks very strong. or at least very annoying. You could also just take on e1, I suppose. Let's say you take on e1 and bishop g4 maybe, with threats along the white squares. Probably just pawn at f3. He chose the knight instead, and now, I mean, you just take the queen. And this is just silly. You can do whatever you like here. Rook e1, pawn e2. It's just over. Yeah, check with the queen, pick up the knight, whatever. This perhaps wasn't the most precise ending, but it was enough. Good enough. 2-0, Fumitoks. And instead of d5, pknm chooses something different. And actually pushing the pawn here in the center so early isn't necessarily good, because it takes a move to push it forward and it's easily traded. And let's say black can achieve d6, pawn takes, you have traded a not so central pawn for a central pawn, which is good, just like in chess. And this pin is nice, although it leaves the black squares here a bit undefended. But maybe black is hoping for capture here, knight e4. Okay. Quick response here by Fumitoks. And he's hoping for knight takes, bishop takes, knight takes, and then knight h4, I think. Just giving up the queen for a strong attack. So instead, black decides to trade on d2. Possibly with the idea to place a bishop on g6, just to neutralize the threat of knight h5. Or maybe you play bishop h5 just to put something on the square where white wants to place his knight. So either bishop g6 or bishop h5. What do you choose? You could pick up a pawn here, because queen takes, bishop at b4 wins the queen. But after knight takes c3, white won't waste any time over here, but rather he'll play knight h5. And one problem for black here is that the usual defending move rook g8 is impossible because of bishop takes h7. So black chooses a different move, but this is super risky. Super risky. Although if black can get away with it, it might be good. Because it attacks the queen. And if the queen moves, the c3 pawn isn't defended anymore. But white might consider even taking on h6. I think Fumitoks is considering the consequences. Because you get a very nice initiative, but maybe it's not enough. You don't have that many pieces in hand. So he plays positionally, placing the bishop in between. And now white wants to play knight at g4, I think, attacking this bishop. So why not do a little preemptive strike here? I was considering bishop h5 or g4, but black wants to finish his development also. Although I don't like the way he allowed knight at g4. Maybe take another knight on g4. Looks possible. Oh, and this is also strong, taking control of the diagonal. I would almost consider queen takes, because then the knight is out of play and you can pick up, maybe pick up a pawn on e5. Yeah, he goes for the queen sack, and this bishop is threatening stuff. So suddenly black got some nice piece play. And if you save the knight, black certainly has compensation, more than enough for the queen, with a piece and a pawn and a lasting initiative. And another pawn on e5 is ready to be captured. So it was white hoping to give back the queen after this. Yep. So this is a minor success for black. And this is taboo because of queen check and queen d2 mate. Wow. Can this be good? This is certainly bad for white. Why didn't he take the queen? That was the only chance. The only chance. So black is just pushing forward here furiously, threatening a heavy check on the H file. And maybe he's too generous with material now. I don't quite like the way black handled this. This is too generous. Okay, the white king is out on the board, but Very interesting position. White has all these heavies, but black is ready to infiltrate. Maybe pawn e3. And this is an annoying move. And I don't see anything for white. And watch out. What is happening here? The black king seems safe. King e8 and rook e7 mate. Nice finish there, but surely black was winning there at some point. So this was bad, and simply rook takes f2 is good for white, but this horrible. Okay. And actually queen takes g3, which was a much better move order for black. Hi there, okay. And why didn't he take the queen here? Okay, this is very mysterious. And from here it just went downhill for black. For some strange reason. Yeah, looks very natural with rook takes h3. And then black just gave away a lot of material. But he's still good here. White got a little bit reckless. And somewhere around here black is just winning. Okay. And what happens here? d4, and now white is more careful, trading the white square bishop. More positional, sensible approach by white. And this is the position pknm likes. So black is cramped here. Why not push the a pawn and cramp the black camp even more? Putting the king in the corner seems like a good idea. But I like this idea. Getting more space. Ah, Fumitoks. Okay. Do you have the URL to his Twitch or whatever? And by the way, is Fumitoks, is he Russian or where is he from? Does anyone know? Okay. So a very confusing position here. Seems like it's pretty much even. Black has claimed his first 4 ranks, and white has claimed his half of the board. And in case you're a chess player, maybe you wonder why black leaves his rook en prise. It's not a mistake. A bishop and a rook is pretty much of the same value in Crazyhouse. Ah, okay. But well, white has slightly more space here, which is nice. Interesting setup here with a bishop artillery defending the black king. Also, you have the d4 square, hoping to put a pawn there and fork something. The black forces just seem a little bit more coordinated here. So probably you can play pawn at d4. Give up the bishop. Knight takes, pawn takes, bishop, queen. And then bishop at e5 picks up the g3 pawn. I'm not sure I understand the adoption. The BB adoption. Okay. Aha, okay, I understand. Yeah, black is just killing on the black squares here. Pawn takes, another fork is coming here on d4. Look at this wedge. Yeah, and Fumitoks needs to win big as well in order to stay in the race for the first place. pknm down to just increment. And actually he's bouncing back here. Wonder why black allowed the queen trade. That was a bit of a mystery to me. I would probably maybe just leave it there. I'm not sure. Instead of trading so much. Because I have a feeling this somewhat helped white. Allowing a queen here, but white then is safe and can start attacking. Maybe with the pawn on e7. Yeah, the barrage technique. Threatening knight e7 and queen h7 mate. White has plenty of pawns to defend with. So I'm a bit curious here. Why did he use the rook? The position suddenly got a bit loose. Because pawn here, knight e1 check could be a way into the position. Oh well. Black doesn't have a queen in hand, so... White has two queens here. Black had better watch out. This is looking good for white, I think. Or is it trapped in the corner? Very interesting position here. Looks as if there's a mate coming. Yeah. White is heading for a touchdown, but he didn't make it all the way across the board, but pknm somewhere taking on e3 was better, apparently. Here, suddenly white is actually better. Bishop b3, a bit stronger, when you possibly could pick up the knight on d1. And I'm wondering... Yeah, this is... How was king takes g2 here? This is much tougher not to crack. Okay, let's watch what is happening. This time he took on e4. And is this some sort of trap? Could be. Could be. One point is if you block here, black will take on g5. And if you block somewhere else, black might consider taking the knight. This is actually interesting. Do you play pawn f4 maybe? Breaking the connection between these two pieces and also putting pressure on e3. $999 years. Puzzle. What kind of puzzle is it? Is it a Crazyhouse puzzle or a chess puzzle or a jigsaw puzzle? So this is disrupting the white plans. If you go into the center of the board, pawn at f4 might be even more annoying. So knight at e4 maybe. You can pick up the bishop, but is this really better than the line I mentioned, pawn at f4? Because I see one problem here. Knight at e4. Let's say you go back with the king and you pick up the bishop. There's a queen check here on b5, picking up the knight on g5. And I think black missed knight takes queen at g5. Also threatening the bishop on b4. So actually this looks bad for black. I think the queen check was maybe a little bit better, actually, giving white more options. Although after queen takes here, there's a bishop at h6, possibly because there's also knight checks here, and maybe, yeah, maybe take on e6 with check, and yeah, looking dangerous. So I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Don't we take the knight? Thank you so much, Pepeyu. And welcome those of you who were watching Pepeyu. This is Crazyhouse Candidates. And Fumitoks has won all his matches so far, and he's about to win against pknm. And white has a lot of queens here, he can waste one, no problem. So not only does this put pressure on the knight here, but also bishop at c5 is more effective. And that was a bad pre-move by pknm. But he has one exit way out of this. So it's not over yet. But queen check here and knight mate on e7, then it's over. Okay, what happened here? Pawn at g4 was the correct move, apparently. But this was a little bit annoying. How was pawn at f4? Oh, I can go back with the knight. But still, queen e4, it's not so clear. But after this then, yeah, pawn at f4. This is even more annoying now. And the computer says it's a little bit better for white, but it's certainly playable. And somehow black managed to get back into the game here. Bishop d3. Oh well. So Fumitoks repeating his same line, and safety precautions by pknm, trading the light square bishop, taking control of the semi-open c-file and just grabbing a lot of space here. I kind of like this plan, actually. Although when the double pawns start moving, they're a bit clumsy. And these two knights are stepping on each other's hooves. Is that even a word? So obviously a pawn would be nice here for white to play pawn at g5. But where to get that pawn? Maybe... Toes, okay. Do horses have toes? Looks like this is a position. Not sure who's better here. White has managed to put all his pieces on the board, but are they in good places? I'm not sure. Somehow I would like to push the d pawn to just to bring my knight out. Because this looks a bit cramped. Yeah, Fumitoks is on his way to a big win, which will be needed in case he wants to compete for first place in this tournament. Hi there, Chuck. And Jeremy Durham is there, and PKR 5025. Nice to see so many strong players in the chat. And actually, I'm on my way to 100 streams. I think I did almost 90. I don't quite like this pawn here because g3 is defended, and who cares about the rook? A bishop, however, if white can get his hands on a bishop, that would be nice. And Lucas Schacht, you're a strong player. I didn't see you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. Yeah, I missed someone else who will block me. Okay, obviously, but I already said hi. So a very positional struggle here. White doesn't really have a plan, but why not tuck the king into the corner? It's usually a good idea. And black is trying to use force to break through. I would strongly consider taking with the pawn here instead, actually, instead of the rook. So this was the idea, to put the rook here. But now you got the pawn for g5. White's position looks a bit shaky here. Just a little bit shaky. King takes, there's a knight fork on e1. Oh, bishop takes, knight g5. Nice find there by pknm. No more checks. Watch out for knight g5. Great defensive move. Gaining control of the g2 square. And is there something forced here? Getting rid. Yeah. And this is checkmate in a few moves. Nice finish by Fumitoks. I'm very impressed by his play. It seemed like white was maybe making a comeback somewhere around here, but oh, he could even play rook g2. Okay. Okay, it's 6-0. And this seems like prep by Fumitoks, and it seems like pknm is out of the book. And this is a bad sign. Do you play rook f1 and sort of castle, or what do you do? Rook f1 seems natural. Pawn takes, queen takes. You always risk getting a bit cramped in this kind of position. So you had better be careful. Shouldn't allow queen takes f7. I wonder if you can be brave and play a short castle here. Pawn h6 and then knight d4. And let's say white plays bishop takes, pawn takes, you have knight at d4. Maybe it's too risky, but it's certainly worth considering. Oh, you had queen check takes h6. So I would probably go for castle short there. This seems like an odd choice to me. Because you can take a knight g7 and pawn e7. What is this? Fumitoks trying to find the most precise way of conducting this attack. And it just seems very natural to take this knight, because it defends important squares, and also you force black to make a decision. Queen takes would allow knight e5. When knight g7 check comes with force. Also, but I don't think you can take with a queen. You need to take with a pawn. But then knight g7 and can you play king d7? What is the purpose of d4? What is the purpose? So obviously you can move the bishop, but pawn at e5. Does this really help white? I'm skeptical. In what way was this better? Well, you lowered the bishop away from this diagonal, so you have one less defender for e7, but pawn at e5, or can you even pawn at e5 before it just seemed like a very natural move. So I'm a bit worried here. Because let's say black plays pawn at d6, white could go for pawn at e7, threatening knight f8 check. And this is not so clear. Little check here, protecting the bishop. And knight check here, picking up the queen. And I'll be damned if black isn't better here. Black is doing fine. One threat being bishop takes here, followed by knight c4 check. It's just over. Yeah, pick up the knight. Okay, what happened there? Well, white doesn't have any threats. You can just start picking up pieces, or you can just checkmate. Yay, way to go, pknm. But what on earth happened there? White was doing fine. Apparently d4 is good. Okay. But pawn at g7, suggested by OK, I think, in the chat, seemed much better. Just pawn g7 and knight at h6. I wonder why can't you play this immediately? What's wrong with this? Okay, so you want to play d4 to block the d4 square, so black can't play knight at d4. That makes sense. But here, pawn at e5 just looks so natural. Although actually, yeah, pawn at e5. The computer likes pawn at e5. And here pawn at g7 once again. And this was a strange decision. And black just cruised towards victory. pknm once again playing white, trading the bishop. And I'm not sure about this. Piling up, hitting the rock here, sitting on d6. It's so well defended. I'm not sure this is the best plan, because you have nothing against this pin. And black just gets nice piece play, I think. And what happens here? Well, I would certainly be tempted to just grab a pawn. Let's grab a pawn. Well, in any case, pknm has avoided a 10-0 loss, which is good, because a 10-0 loss is bad. Yeah, let's put it on e4, and in case black captures, you take with the pawn probably. Reinforcing e4. White wasn't happy with his queen here anymore, with the bishop defending b7. The queen didn't do much on b3. Yeah. But pknm, you're so low on time here. Even though black has slightly less space here, look at these bishops exerting so much control on the board. compared to the knights in the white camp. But this was good. I would have played knight e4 here. Knight e4. I want to give my rook for that bishop. Why not bring this knight over to the king's side? pknm with 3 seconds, Fumitoks with 2 minutes. And don't forget there's a knight hanging here as well. This is actually quite annoying for black. Was that really the right move? Okay. Trying to pick up some heavy piece here for g7, I suppose, when something like knight takes f7 might follow. Knight fork, can you simply take on g5? Or does white have anything? Oh, this is close to mate. Rook at h2, king g3, rook g1, or rook at g2 now is mate. I'm wondering why doesn't he take with a knight here? I just don't understand it. You want to swing your knight over to the king's side. But still, here white is doing fine. Pick up d6. Yeah, that seems a lot quicker. And this was simply bad. Okay. 7-1 in favor of Fumitoks. And pknm, you need to work on your black openings because this might be bad. I suppose bishop b5. Pitting the knight, preparing to castle short. Oh, leaving the d4 pawn on please, but then you have queen g4 maybe, hitting g7 and the pieces on the 4th rank. Was it really wise to take on d4? I seriously doubt it. I mean, if white can capture on g7, he's simply winning. Simply winning. Very natural attacking move. After bishop takes, king takes. Where is black's counterplay? I suppose you take the knight here. Threatening to take on f5. So a natural defensive move, and white tries to push forward here. Also very natural. Did that cost black a queen? It seems as if it did. A lot of pressure here on black, and I'm sorry, but white just takes on f3. That didn't solve anything. And there's no fork here because this is defended. No, you just pick up the knight. Possibly take e7. I suppose Fumitoks is counting here, calculating queen takes, king takes, maybe pawn f6. But why even bother? Just take the knight here in d4. So he got the black king trapped. Queen here, no way back. Pawn at g2. Checkmate. And it's 8-1. And indeed, queen takes e7 is the fastest move. But how was the opening here? Yeah, I was thinking queen g4. Here, queen g5 actually seems good for black. And this was just too greedy. Too easy win here. And what happens here? No bishop trade on d3. Instead, white chooses some other line. But watch out for the knight hanging here. Black could very well play something like knight to d5. Let's say knight takes, pawn takes, and the knight is hanging here on h4. I don't quite trust the white setup here. Black choosing another way of hitting the knight, also hitting the bishop on f4. I suppose you could play bishop g3. But this seems okay for white. This should be okay. A nice little move, hitting the bishop here, and watch out, no bishop g6 because of knight takes, and then the pawn is actually hanging because the h-pawn is pinned. But now this queen is pinning the knight. This is the first game really where Fumitoks has spent too much time. And this is a very weakening. I suppose bishop d3, queen here, maybe even castle long. Definitely get the option to castle long. I think this is way too passive. You can't possibly be sure that this is the right square for the bishop. And now you're missing your bishop after this pin. Maybe white should even play king e2, and maybe he could have played king f2 on the previous move, here, let's say king f2, just to connect these pieces. Oh, he did play king e2. Yeah, probably b4. And why not keep pushing your pawns up the board? Oops. Black felt he had to give the queen there. But this is not looking good for black. Not at all. I'm supposed to just take twice on e6. What? Winning even more material? Black is down a queen for a pawn. Not a good sign, but both players down to increment more or less. A little check, protecting g2 also. And black is out of his precious defenders, but what is happening? That just cost white way too much. And now black is safe. And this looks hopeless. Absolutely hopeless. Too bad. Fumitoks will win this 9-1. Bishop check, closing the exit, and a queen mate on h1. You didn't even have to put your other queen on the board, but you could just use the queen you had. And white is doing super well here. How could lose this? Oh well. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope to see you soon. Next match on Saturday. This is too early for me. But on Sunday, prepare yourself for Blitzbullet versus Zixon. I'm looking forward to that.